Hi there, Michael Bovee with Consumer Recovery Network, and today I want to talk about settling or negotiating settlements or payments even with United Collections Bureau, UCB. They're a pretty big debt collection agency. They're the typical contingency type of debt collector. In other words, when you hear from them, it's over the phone or notices in the mail, and they're trying to collect for their boss, whoever it was that hired them, right? So if Citibank set a debt to UCB, they still own it. UCB is just trying to get you to pay, and they get paid if they get you to pay. In other words, let's say you owe $10,000 and they are able to collect $5,000 of that from you. They get paid maybe 15% of what they got you to pay, in this case $5,750, right? So that's how a contingency collector will work. You can use that to your advantage, because the fact of the matter is, contingency debt collectors are there if you're able to resolve a debt. And if you're on my channel watching any videos, it's usually because you're looking for ways to resolve debt. They're there as a tool to help you do it, and their motivations are your motivations. They're there to make money, you're working with them to save money. Okay, so both of you want to get the account resolved. You just have to work within the confines of what they're capable of doing because of who your creditor is and or what your situation looks like. What do I mean by what your situation looks like? Debt collectors care about visibly how collectible you appear to them. One of the ways, and the primary way, that they're able to develop an attitude about what they should be able to get you to pay is they have real-time access to your credit report. So UCB, in this case, they've got a debt collector who has either an algorithm that's showing them how collectible you look, or is actually looking at your credit report and can see if you're making a mortgage payment, a car payment on time, never have fallen behind. Maybe you're paying other credit cards on time, just not this one. Or maybe not this one and another one, but you're paying other creditors nonetheless. So that makes it look like you have some type of income, and it's steady enough to maintain mortgage, car, credit card payments. As opposed to somebody who might have a mortgage and a car, but 9 credit cards or other types of unsecured credit that aren't being paid. They're in collections. So you look like somebody who's less able to afford their life or their bills, okay? If you're in a situation where you can fund a lump sum settlement, in other words, let's say $10,000 again, and we'll pick on Citibank because we already have, and Citibank's floor of what they're, and this is just for example purposes, but let's say they're allowing UCB to settle as low as 35%, so $3,500 in this situation. If you can come up with that money in a lump sum, it is worthwhile to reach out to UCB and negotiate that settlement in one lump sum. Obviously, you want to get everything documented. I have other videos on the channel about getting your settlements documented before you make payments. UCB is very familiar with sending out documentation. Don't take no for an answer, in other words. You want to set up payment deadlines that are consistent with you being able to receive that in the mail, so sometimes a couple of weeks out. One of the things about dealing with contingency debt collectors, in this case United Collections Bureau, is that they have a limited amount of time that they are going to be trying to collect from you. Typically, that limitation is several months, okay? Citibank, again, let's say they send out a batch of accounts to UCB, yours is one of them, and you start to hear from UCB. The moment you start to hear from them with the first phone call or letter, count forward what I usually encourage about 90 days. And if you're unable to get the outcome that you need or get the lowest settlement that you can afford to pay, and you still have a realistic target, somewhere between 35, 40, 50%. If you're not able to get it in that first week, in that first phone call, sometimes it makes a difference if you call the following month. And sometimes it makes a difference if you call closer to the end of the month. Why? Because they have certain goals that they're trying to hit, right? So, and it's not just UCB as a collection agency as a whole. The debt collector that's working on your file might have some goals that they want to hit on a monthly basis, or the team that it works with inside of the debt collection agency has to achieve certain goals. Those goals mean they can get a bonus. That means maybe they even get to keep their job, because it might not be that great of a collector. So it's important to use these kind of strategies, call back several times, closer to the end of the month, still leaving yourself time to get the documentation faxed, or often still, for whatever reason, collectors are reluctant to email. So you have to assume that mail's going to take a week, right? So maybe you start negotiating on the 20th of the month to time the ability to fund it, call in the payment, or oftentimes pay these things on their website. at the end of the month and meet that deadline. So use those things to your advantage, and know that if you're getting closer to where it's 90 days that UCB has had the account, now they're going to lose it and they're not going to make a penny off you. So that's going to be, if they are motivated by reaching certain goals or retaining the account in some way or another, getting them all the way closer to the end of the cycle where they're going to have to lose the account, send it back to Citibank in this example, sometimes is where that's when the deal kicks loose that you can afford or that's realistic. Okay, that's about settling. What about payments? UCB, just like any collector, wants your money. So it's going to be simple to get them to agree to take payments, but you're not always going to be able to get them to agree to what you can afford to pay, because their boss may not, the creditor that sent them the account, may not typically agree to those lower payments, okay? So if all you can afford to do is send $25 a month and it's a $10,000 account, why would you? First off, because it's nonsensical. You're not making a dent in the actual principal, and don't be surprised if UCB won't take that payment. You have to be somebody that typically is going to be able to repay these debts with a debt collector. With payments, they're looking at 12, 24 months targets usually on the outside, not much further than that. So if it's a payment situation, you just can't simply, it's impossible for you to raise the money and do it in a lump sum, which I encourage a great deal, obviously, to get this behind you. But if it's a payment situation, there's some flexibility there. Just realize you still want to get it done relatively quickly. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next video.